There is a growing problem in Britain. Large parts of society have lost the ability to discuss difficult issues without instantly questioning people's motives instead of addressing the actual argument. The pattern is now painfully predictable. Raise concerns about grooming gangs, you're racist. Talk about forced marriage, you hate Muslims. Question religious arbitration systems, you're far right. Discuss extremism, Islamophobe. And just like that, the conversation is over. No facts examined, no nuance explored, no debate allowed. Modern Britain has developed a bizarre habit of confusing scrutiny with hatred. Too many public conversations are now competitions over who can appear the most morally pure, instead of who is actually willing to confront reality honestly. And it is becoming dangerous because a mature society must be able to distinguish between criticism of ideas and hatred of people, scrutiny and bigotry, patterns and collective blame, uncomfortable facts and prejudice. But instead, we now live in a culture where some people treat any criticism connected to Islam as automatically racist, regardless of context, evidence, or intent. That mindset does not create tolerance. It creates silence. And silence does not remove problems. It drives them underground where resentment quietly grows. Worse still, it often silences the very people they claim to protect. Muslim women speaking about coercion, ex-Muslims speaking about abuse, reformist Muslims speaking about extremism, victims speaking about exploitation. All too often, these people are ignored, dismissed, or attacked because their experiences disrupt a politically convenient narrative. And that is where this stops being progressive. Because protecting communities from hatred is one thing. Protecting ideas or practices from scrutiny is something else entirely. No religion, no ideology, no culture, no political movement should ever be beyond criticism in a free society. That principle applies to Christianity, to Judaism, to Hinduism, to Sikhism, to Islam, to everybody. And before the usual suspects start hyperventilating, let's make something crystal clear. Criticizing extremist interpretations, coercive practices, or failures within parts of a community is not the same as condemning millions of Muslims. Most Muslims in Britain are law-abiding people living normal lives. We know this. Many support secular law completely. Many are just as frustrated by extremism and community pressure as everyone else. But that reality does not magically erase legitimate concerns where they exist. Millions of people now rehearse conversations in their own heads before speaking publicly because they fear social punishment, professional consequences, or public humiliation. That is not a healthy society. That is a frightened one. A compassionate society protects minorities from hatred. A mature society also accepts that no community, ideology, or belief system is beyond scrutiny. And when mainstream society treats every concern as forbidden, it should not be surprised when frustrated people stop listening altogether. That is how polarization grows. And here's the truly damaging part. When people repeatedly see obvious issues dismissed as racism, public trust begins collapsing. Because people are not blind. They can see double standards. They can see when certain topics become untouchable. And eventually, they stop believing institutions altogether. Ironically, this climate also makes genuine racism harder to identify. If every criticism becomes racist, the word loses meaning. People stop taking it seriously. And actual racists become easier to hide among ordinary citizens who simply have concerns they feel unable to voice. That is not social progress. That is social decay disguised as virtue. One of the strangest contradictions in modern Britain is this. The same people who say don't generalize all Muslims will often generalize all critics as racist without hesitation. No nuance, no curiosity, no attempt to separate fair criticism from hatred. Just labels. And labels are easier than arguments because arguments require evidence. Labels, they just require outrage. A healthy society should be able to discuss difficult issues calmly, honestly, and factually without instantly descending into tribal hysteria. Empathy and honesty are not opposites. And honesty also means recognizing patterns without collapsing into collective blame. Let's also stop pretending religion itself is irrelevant to these discussions. Many of Britain's most difficult debates around extremism, women's rights, forced marriage, religious arbitration, and integration do involve conservative interpretations of Islam and pressures within parts of Muslim communities. That is not racism. It is a reality discussed by journalists, reformist Muslims, ex-Muslims, women's rights campaigners, police, and governments across Europe. The problem is that modern Britain often struggles to distinguish between criticism of Islamic ideas or practices and hatred toward Muslims as people. Those are not the same thing. A free society must be capable of critically examining religious beliefs, cultural norms, and ideological systems without automatically treating that scrutiny as bigotry. If certain religious beliefs or practices conflict with equality under the law, freedom of speech, or women's rights, people have every right to discuss that openly. The alternative is a society too frightened to examine difficult realities honestly. Too much of modern public discourse now resembles emotional blackmail. The accusation becomes the shield, not the argument. And once a society becomes too frightened to discuss real problems honestly, those problems do not disappear. They grow, quietly, underneath the surface, while everyone performs morality online for strangers. A society that cannot discuss difficult issues honestly without instantly questioning motives will eventually lose the ability to solve those issues at all. And Britain is getting dangerously close to that point.